Like, that was so sick.
Yeah.
She's so goated. Are
She's
you
awesome.
kidding me? What?
She's
that
awesome.
Was like, oh my God, so sick.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast where we highlight and discuss new series each week. My name is Josh Yoma Michaels, and today I am joined by
Mehgan, honey, the Yoma ate my kid's purine.
little Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
Or that's when they blow up something, not when they eat something.
No.
That's just a single dad.
Yeah,
Like,
but
honey, they ate all the groceries.
The kids are gone
Yeah.
because the Yoma ate them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of going.
Yeah, Rick Moranis in medieval times. Now that's a movie. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Volume 1. Today, we are going to be discussing Volume 1 of Claymore, okay? This is a series that I actually watched all the way back probably in about 2008, maybe. It's a series that I remember loving. I remember loving this series, and the discourse online seems to be everywhere. Claymore is Berserk's younger sister, or Claymore is Berserk, Witcher-esque. I mean, there's so many comparisons. It does feel like it might be a little Berserk meets Demon Slayer, but it is very much its own thing. It is very much its own story. And it's a story that upon revisiting, I actually found myself really, really enjoying. But Mehgan, my wonderful co-host, had not read or watched any Claymore. So Mehgan, before we find out the synopsis and go deeper into this series, what were some of your just sort of general thoughts, or what did you expect going into this Volume 1?
I mean, I had seen the first episode, actually. You showed me the first episode. And
I showed you a clip from the first episode.
Oh, not the full thing.
Yeah.
I really liked what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And researching what we had to read, I realized that the first volume was only 4 chapters, which was like, wow, I wonder if they're just going to be long chapters. I wonder what kind of story is going to be told in this couple of chapters. And all I've got to say is, Claymore, give me more.
Okay. All right.
Love it. I really, really enjoyed it. I was like blown away at how like masterful like the mangaka was with the dialogue, because there isn't like a whole lot, and it's just the right amount of information, because sometimes, first volumes, they want to leave an impact. They want to have you keep reading, but sometimes they, rely too heavily on like a whole cast of characters introduced, not necessarily focusing directly on the main character. And we got a lot of Claire. She said things and you could tell there's underlying meanings to what she's saying, and she doesn't have to say a lot for you to see it on her face, with giving like no emotion, but yet all the emotion. It was just amazing. I loved every second.
Yeah, that makes me really happy. And I feel, very similarly. I mean, going through this and finding out that it was only 4 chapters, I mean, I had to double, triple, quadruple check. And sure enough, yeah, even on Viz, the Shonen Jump website, it is 4 chapters, and they are 4 easy, short chapters that feel like they just flew by. I love everything that you said about it. It's absolutely true. I mean, it has a little dialogue. The art is stunning, and I really do think that in terms of art and setting, I guess that's, I think, why people are at times, they tend to compare it to Berserk. I mean, I think Miura's art definitely is in a different, on a different level, and is in at a different pedigree, but
Caliber of its own.
Yeah, but this art is very, very good. I really think it fits this setting, and it is the perfect art to tell this story.
Yeah, at first I was kind of like, okay. I wasn't completely out, but it was just kind of different than what I expected. I mean, obviously anime does take liberties and does change style, depending on when it's made, like how far apart they were made. They want like Clannad, like something like that. But I really, really did enjoy it. Everything was so clean. All the fight scenes were really clean. I could clearly see what was going on. It wasn't overcomplicated. And I love the like, I would say maybe the shadowing, the blurriness.
It almost looked like it was graphite at times.
Yeah, I really liked that.
I loved it. And I think a lot of times a Volume 1 can sort of feel like it's it's trying too hard to give you all the information and all the rules of this world and how everything works and what the hierarchy is and what the
magic system
is and what the organizations behind the scenes
what
are.
What the love triangle is.
Yeah, and we don't even get to really meet the main antagonist in this first volume at all. It's a lot of setup, but it's done in a very, I think, sufficient way. It's
definitely,
it's a really easy first read, and it really does hold up. I want to talk a lot more about the anime specifically, and even some more stuff about the manga before we go beat by beat. But before we get to the synopsis and talk more about it, we have to get to our highlighted comment of the day. This comment comes from it's from our Black Clover episode, from Philip Nguyen, who says, so Black Clover is basically well-made eggs. Eggs seem simple, scrambled, poached, hard-boiled, soft-boiled, etc., etc. But to make them well requires skill and timing. Black Clover does the basics well and fast. Nothing new, but delicious at the end of the day.
I loved that comment.
Yeah, what an awesome comment.
Awesome.
And you're going to want to stay tuned to the end of the episode where we have a section and a segment on our show called The Wonder Circle where Volume Munchan, our AI, reads more comments. But Philip, this was a very, very great comment. And I think it surprised me, there was a lot of nerves putting that Black Clover episode out because of just, again, what it feels like the general consensus, unfortunately, on this series is. But speaking openly and honestly about how I felt about it, I was a little nervous. Like, are people going to come at me for, having shit taste because I like this thing? But I was really pleasantly surprised and actually shocked to see that a lot of people not only love Black Clover, which I didn't doubt. I know that there is a community of people who really love this series, but that people within our community who had never read it, people who I very much respect their opinions. There's a member in our community called Mr. Stealing Your Waifu. And they do manga reviews in our Discord, and a person of great taste said that they begrudgingly read Volume 1 and actually ended up really liking it and wanting to continue it. A lot of people even saying that they like it more than My Hero. And I think in terms of longevity, Black Clover, I could definitely see that. I watched a lot of the anime of Black Clover and My Hero, and I could see that. But just wanted to say that. Anything else you want to add before we get the synopsis and start going through this?
About Claymore or about the comment?
About that poached eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Comment,
I love eggs. That's it. No. I really was like, wow, I love a good analogy.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Yeah. I love that explanation of, because again, like when we go back to Claymore, over analyzing, being overcritical, is something that I feel like a lot of people do when it comes to manga and anime. And sometimes it's just a good old classic shonen. It doesn't have to be its own thing. It doesn't have to break barriers, break walls. It could just be as simple as, I want to be, the next Magic King. Yeah. And okay, yeah, we'll take it. And if it's, if it's entertaining and if you like that, I mean, it does its job. But Claymore did a little more.
Really? Claymore, I think, does do a lot more and is, I think, a lot more in line with the Berserk sort of fandom or world. I think that a lot of people who like Berserk will like Claymore, although I don't really love the comparisons because Berserk is a lot more, I think, it's a lot heavier. And I think that what the main character Guts deals with is a lot, he goes through. I mean, Miura has such a talent for showing just this pain and these emotions. Not that Claire or Claymore doesn't do that, but I just think the level of just like despair and utter just like pure, just someone being defeated. I mean, Berserk does that the best to me. But
I do like, maybe a comparison too would just be like these two people are like living in these two worlds of, Claire is like half Yoma, half human. Where does she fit in? Her, job is, eating at her slowly but surely, but she doesn't have anything else, much like, Guts. And obviously the setting and stuff is very similar and the coldness, but yet caring side of Claire, like you could definitely see throughout this volume. But I really like it. I don't know what to do, read or watch or both.
Well, I'll tell you more about why you shouldn't read it or why you shouldn't watch it, and you should only read it after Volume 1. If there's anyone out there watching or listening who has no idea what Claymore or is about or anything about it at all, Volume 1, Sean, our beautiful AI, can you hit us with the synopsis for Claymore, please?
In a world rife with deadly creatures called Yoma, a young silver-eyed woman, Claire, works on behalf of an organization that trains female Yoma half-breeds into warriors with the ability to destroy these creatures.
Very well put. Yeah, I love that this is, all again going to be covering just what is covered in volume 1, and then we'll talk a little bit more about my experience, at least, or I'll talk a little bit more about my experience, watching the anime, but I won't spoil anything. But I do love that this is an all, these are strong women, and they are only women that survive this sort of process. I love that because it just doesn't seem like we get a lot of this or enough of this. Or any of this. I mean, we get strong female characters throughout many series. I think that they're, you can name hundreds of them, but for this unit to be, only women, and the reason be that women are the only ones who can survive this process, and that men tend to give in to the Yoma and the Yoma's either power or influence. Like, I really love that, especially, again, I was telling you because, a lot of my family is, on one side is a very machismo. And so I could, if they had some Yoma in them, they'd be, they already act like they got some Yoma in them. I think half of my, dad's side of the family is Yoma. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, and the reason I want to talk to you about the anime too is because I do think that the anime, in going back and preparing for this episode, I do think that the animation holds up. I mean, this was a series, the anime came out in 2007. The manga was released in Japan in 2002, but not in English until 2006. But the anime, despite coming out in 2007, holds the fuck up. It holds up, and it holds up so well. Parts of it, scenes of it. There are some, scenes that don't hold up. And I even have here, I mean, this is probably, this DVD, box set or whatever, part 1. This is probably, I bought this in 2008. This is probably, I can't do math how old
it's a relic.
It's a relic. Yeah, I went to just like a local, anime collector shop and found this and was like, damn, I gotta check this out. And I've held on to it. I don't know how, ever since, but, this series has been with me for a long time, and I actually completed the anime. I watched all of it. It's so long ago that I don't remember exactly everything beat for beat, but why you should read it instead of watch it is because, there was only one season, and I think it was about 26 episodes, right? And even watching it the first time, I did feel like I liked it. And at the time, I wasn't like as analytical when it came to watching anime as I am now, Yeah. I was a lot younger, and I was like, I'm just here to find a new cool series. And I liked the way it ended when I was young, but I also, something did feel off or rushed or like, wow, we got here really fast. And it also did feel really anticlimactic in a sense. And it didn't feel like it really ended well. But, at the time, being less analytical, I was like, yeah, whatever. Overall, it was a pretty good series. Going back, now I realized that it was only one season, and they shoved 11 volumes of this manga into 26 episodes, which is a lot. They really did end up, because of where the anime manga was at when the anime was airing. They didn't have source material, so they sort of just jammed everything that was out together, skipped a bunch of stuff, rushed a bunch of stuff, and then kind of like fudged a little bit their own ending. And it's not as well paced or explained, or really like it's not given any time to like breathe. And the characters don't get a lot of the same depth that they do in the manga. So that's why you should definitely read this instead of watch it. But you also said you had a really good time just reading it. The reading experience for you is very enjoyable.
Yeah. Even though it was short, a lot was introduced at a great pace, and it just kept me wanting, to keep reading, like wanting to know the next adventure, I guess, or especially after volume 1, I was like, wow, like that ending of the volume 1 was really, really cool. And I did, feel a lot for Claire, even though Claire doesn't show much emotion, with her choices and actions, you can definitely tell that she has a lot. And having another character that, you know, is able to show emotion so freely, like does allow like a good contrast between these two characters, and, you know, having herself seeing him in herself. I think it's a really cool dynamic, and I do love like a strong character and a character that, you know, like a sidekick that doesn't really know exactly what's going
That's why
on.
you love Guts and Puck.
Yeah, for sure. But
do you see, I mean, you kind of explained it a little bit in the beginning, your thoughts on it being compared to Berserk. You can kind of see some of the overlap or some of the similarities between the two. Would you also say, I mean, because I mean, the only reason I say Demon Slayer is because, of course, they're slaying Yoma, which are like demons, and they do go from town to town and are sent by this organization to do this thing.
Yeah, and you know, they can like disguise themselves as humans. It is like what if the Hashira were given a little bit of demon blood and were able to fight demons better than they are as humans? But I mean, that goes against what Demon Slayer is kind of all about. You know, humans do have a different power. They're stronger because they don't have to rely on that, because they don't have to or can't rely on their strength. But I see the similarity, but this is like, I mean, you can't really compare them at all. It's like Tanjiro went through all of that, but is nowhere near as badass as Claire. Tanjiro's cool, but it is just like, you know, Claire.
Tanjiro's pure. He's like, that's a pure boy. Right
yeah. Claire's like brass tacks. Let's get to the point. Let's do it. You know, let's get it over with. But at the same time, you kind of realize further down the line, like, you know, why she's actually doing it, and the character that she's with could like possibly be on the same path, but he is a boy, so it is like interesting.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, last thing I'll say before we go more beat by beat is, I do think if you like Berserk, you'll like this, because I struggle to find dark fantasy series that I think are really good and are really, you know, I mean, they handle everything that it's handling, I think, very well.
Yeah, and it's not like overly edgy. Like,
no, not at all.
You know how when we did read Berserk, it was like, in the beginning, we were like, who is this guy? Like this edgelord type guy who's like too cool for school. Obviously, that was not the case at all. And I could definitely see how you could read this and be like, oh, Claire's just this like deadpan, no emotion, you know, badass. But at the end of the first volume, I was like, wow, like she does have depth. Like I said, even though she doesn't really talk much or show any emotion, like how mangaka was able to convey that and not make it seem like it was like overly edgy or overly over the top, like that's what sold it for me. Yeah,
I mean, outside of it, and there are a lot of like fantasy manga, but outside of like, you know, things like isekai that do deal with like these fantasy medieval type settings, like, you know, Berserk, this has the same sort of just like, you know, the era and the setting feel the most similar. Like I could definitely see Claire in Berserk, and I could definitely see Guts like in Claymore, just like in that world walking around. You know what I mean? So in terms of like finding a story that has a similar setting and a similar vibe and a similar feel, although they are extremely different and have their own identities in their own right, and even though Claymore at times is very gory and well drawn, and does get a little dark, I don't think anything compares to Berserk. But, you know, it was really nice to revisit this series and find that it does have that. If you are looking for something like it, this might be it.
Yeah, and I do like medieval settings that are, you know, you can't spell medieval without evil. I mean, the people are just out for themselves. You know, they don't live too long, so they're just trying to. I didn't write that down. No, I didn't have to write it down. He looked at my notebook right now. I was like, ooh. But yeah, no, I was like, this is how it would be. You know, people trying to look out for their necks or doing kind of like, you know, not the best things behind the scenes. I really like that.
Yeah. Well, let's just go through it beat by beat. Again, it's only 4 chapters, and the 4 chapters kind of fly. I breezed through them. I sat down to read thinking like, oh, I got a lot of other reading to do. I might read this in 2 sittings, read it in 1 in a lot shorter time than I thought I was going to have to.
And I think, I mean, honestly and truly, you know, a standard is about 10 to 11 chapters per volume. And having it so short and having it, you know, be so impactful, it's like you want to keep reading because maybe you'll get a little more in the second volume, maybe the third volume, maybe the fourth volume. It does like bring you back. It does
feel like every chapter you're learning like one new thing about the world or this system. Just one. Like a lot of other manga, again, in the first, couple pages, you're getting a lot of things thrust upon you, like all these rules and like, okay, well, this person, this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like, okay, you're going to learn, like you're in the first chapter, you're going to learn how the world perceives Claymore and what their job is. And then in the second chapter, you're going to see, like deeper into the operations and a little more behind the scenes, and then it kind of just keeps going. I mean, you learn one cool new thing every chapter.
And that's how I like my volumes. I mean, I like that little piece of mystery because it does entice me to learn more. Not everything's already here, so do you like it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm like learning. I'm learning about it very like, again, not in your face. There was kind of like an exposition dump, but that was just because, it had to happen. Like, I was hearing at the window, what are you guys talking,
Yeah.
And knowing what was the case, I was like, you didn't have to know any of that.
And that for me, I mean, that's one scene I want to talk about a lot because I do vividly remember, I think one of the reasons I fell in love with the anime is because of one of the scenes, which I do think was a little bit better in my memory in the anime than it was in the manga, because in the manga, it did kind of just happen, all happen really fast. But, the story opens on a village, right? And a boy who has been like slaughtered and his blood and everything is all over the streets. And they're saying that that's like the 6th victim that week, which means that, or that month, which means that a Yoma or a demon is living amongst the citizens of this village.
You know who it could be?
Yoma.
The Yoma?
Yeah.
Did you see it right on my notebook?
I didn't. I took it from you.
You did!
Yeah, it's mine now.
God damn it. Yeah, yo mama. Fuck.
Is that what you were writing down? I saw Mehgan like in her notebook. She's like, I'm too good writing it down.
I have another one. Don't steal my jokes, you joke stealer.
I didn't steal it. I mean, you can
you
watch
put
it
your
back.
own spin on it.
No, I didn't put my own spin on it either. I said
God
it first.
Damn it.
I said it
you
first.
knew what I was gonna say, and you just you grabbed. You were like Ursula. You stole like the voice.
Like Ursula. That's a fat joke.
Take it as you will.
Okay.
Take it as you will. Anyway, Yo Mama might be a Yoma, so watch out.
And we don't want to body shame Ursula over here. Okay.
She's not a good person. She's not a good person.
She's not. She's a terrible person. But yeah, opens up on this villager, and there's a Yoma living there, and so there's a group of like young men who go to see the head of the village, and they're like, we gotta do something about this Yoma. And he's like, okay, I got it. And it's so funny. The panel's like his fingers like sliding. And I will say this about the art, and I really maybe should have said this earlier. When the art wants to be stunning, it is stunning, like breathtaking. There are most of the panels I am in awe of just what I'm seeing. I'm like, wow, the way that this mangaka draws faces and action and Yoma and armor and everything is so cool. However, there's probably like 4 panels in this first volume. I would say 4 that are like shockingly like just the proportions are the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's like a panel with the main character, Reiki, I think. Rocky, who's like looking at Claire, and his lips look so pursed. I mean, he's just like, and his whole face, I mean, he looks like we put one of those filters over him where his whole face gets sunken into all his features get sunken into his face. Yeah,
it was pretty. That's why I was like, I don't know about this art.
And
in the first chapter, I was like,
and then you could tell that it feels like the mangaka really, and I don't, their job is incredibly difficult. I'm not saying that they don't deserve to cut a few corners, but you can tell that they really put their whole, what into drawing main characters and the characters at the forefront.
Yeah.
And then you look at the background, and it's freaking Code Lyoko characters back there with freaking big ass heads.
It really reminded me of Code Lyoko, the big foreheads and everything.
That's what I'm saying.
But I like the first page of the manga in general, like you have Claire and you just see that like eye, that like snake Yoma
Yeah.
eye, like so beautiful. It's like smoky. It's like smudginess. Like graphite. I love that. But yeah, there were some that I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was
Go
like, oh my
Lyoko.
God. There was one that was so bad that I stared at it for like 5 minutes. And I was just like, I get that you're under like a time crunch, but I mean, I don't know. Anyway, mangaka have it hard enough.
This
I
is
shouldn't
actually
be.
The mangaka is Yagi Norihiro, and they did the story art for Claymore, and they also did Angel Densetsu. Densetsu. Angel Densetsu. It's like I think he's like a high school student with like wings. The first volume cover is like a guy
Was
like
that
this.
translated into English as D and Angel?
I don't know.
But I remember this other
Maybe.
series from my childhood called D and Angel.
If they look similar. They look pretty similar. You could definitely tell it's like the same type of art.
It does. The art does kind of remind me of the mangaka for when it is good. It's like on the level of like the mangaka, the Death Note mangaka a little bit, like the way that they draw facial features, like somewhat realistic, but also really clean. When it's good, when it's bad, Code Lyoko.
But that's definitely. I think we definitely have people in like our Discord have been talking about or had talked about this series before, and it looked really interesting. But I just wanted to say that before we moved on. But
I mean, thank you for pointing that out because I forgot to write the mangaka's name down. I want to get better at that. So the head of the village says that they're going to hire a Claymore, and what Claymore basically are, they call them, silver-haired witches or silver-haired witches, and that they are, half human, half Yoma, more Yoma than human, if you ever meet one. And they
more Yoma than human.
More Yoma than human.
Introducing
Here comes Claire.
That's like the mirror from Shrek.
Yeah. I was going to say, tonight's entertainment is brought to you by someone more Yoma than human. Coming to the stage now. Okay, that's a little bad. And then it's all the Yoma in the strip club, like,
you went strip club. I thought it was
coming
just
to the
maybe
stage.
coming to the stage. It could have been a performer, could have been a singer, could have been a
strippers
comedian.
are performers. Let's chill on that, dude. Let's chill on that.
Okay, it's just funny that your head went there.
Yeah. Well, it's just because that voice reminds me of like a stripper DJ. Like, coming to the stage now. Okay. I got some. I got some soul searching. I got some explaining to do. But anyway, and that they're half Yoma, half human. That they've consumed Yoma blood and Yoma flesh to give them these supernatural abilities, and everybody in the village is they question this decision a lot. They're like, really, a Claymore? Like, I don't know if we should trust them. I don't know. And he's like, look, we're desperate. We got to do what we got to do. Mm-hmm. And it's getting out of control. And you guys are going to be next. And they're like, okay.
Is that a threat or a promise?
Yeah. They're like, are you the Yoma? Well, it does, turn out later on. But this group of younger men are walking outside. And it seems that one of them has a little brother waiting outside, and he is like, hey, I heard you guys talking to the chief, and they're going to get a Claymore. Claymore's coming here. He's like, you should have been listening to what we were talking about.
He's like, you had the window open, and you guys were pretty loud. What's a Claymore?
Yeah. He's screaming in the street, what's a Claymore? In the whole street. And he's like, shh. He's like, but you were talking about it with the chief.
Yeah, like little kid shit.
Yeah,
they always do that. You said that you would tell me that if there was like a Claymore. What's a Claymore?
Rocky is a little bit. He is so on the line of being an annoying character, but ends up being a lot sweeter of a character than I think. I mean, he's really towing the line because he's just
teetering.
He's teetering.
He was off to a rocky start.
Okay. All right. Now, the way that they play this in the manga, I really like going back and rereading. This is, spoilers for the first chapter, but the way they play this is it makes it seem like the older brother is suspicious of Rocky, for being the Yoma, possibly the Yoma, because he's just kind of looking at him and he's like, why were you listening? It's kind of hard to hear. You would have had to have your ear pressed up against the wall. And there's a panel where he's just kind of staring at him before he answers. Like, I don't know if I should be trusting you with this information. But it turns out later that Hideyoma The brother is, but then Claire.
Spoiler.
But he kind of spoiler for chapter. But he kind of Claire kind of starts coming into town, but he kind of just like runs away. He kind of like the brother kind of runs away, but has an excuse for it at the time. And then Claire comes in, and everybody's just looking her up and down. Everybody's like, "Oh, what's up with this? What's up with this girl?"
It's like baddie alert.
Yeah, I mean for real, is this the silver-haired witch over here? Freaking monster.
Yeah, it's like she's here to help you. Like,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like what do you?
Well, it's just like the cops, They come to help you, but then you're like freaking pigs, It's like the same thing.
Yeah, Yoma.
And cops, they did. I think that a lot of them do, are half Yoma too. Yeah.
That's a new technology, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, they got the Yoma division. But I did think, if you're going to go back, and again, we just did Black Clover not too long ago, but if you're going to go back and say that, like, while Black Clover, like, extended that across multiple chapters, here in the first chapter, it was like, damn, they're really hammering in that, like, people don't like these freaking Claymores, these half Yoma, because everybody's just so mean to this person that's coming into town to help them. I understand that they are very afraid, and they don't know, we have to remember that this takes place in a society where there isn't like social media and internet and things like that. Imagine this thing you hear about and you never, like, that's the thing you never get to see. There's pictures don't even exist. I mean, you never get to see a picture of one. You just hear about them. And then one comes walking into your town one day. I do get it, but it is funny,
Yeah, it's just like, chill.
Yeah.
Chill. Again, she's literally here to help you.
But Rocky comes right up to her. I'm deciding on Rocky, by the way. Comes up to her and is like really excited, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna look haggard. I thought you were gonna look like a monster, but you look." And he like, I'm like, "Shoot your shot, Rocky." Dude. He's like, "But you look kind of hotter than all the girls in this village, And I was like, "Damn, boy, you're really going out." I mean,
yeah, he went for it.
Yeah, he's got taste, And then it's really cute because she's like, yeah. And she kind of goes to the outskirts of town, plants her blade, which is so sick. It's got this like symbol on it, and we find out more about that symbol later.
And I did like the interaction between her and the chief too. So when she comes into town, and the chief is like, "Oh, hey, thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Here's like your pay for slaying the Yoma." And she's just like, "There is no need to pay me.
Yeah.
If I die, there's no need." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And
baller shit.
She
right
is
there.
like so like, I mean, that's probably not even her voice. I see it more like low.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I say that. But yeah, he's like, he kind of was like, "Oh, okay, like brass tacks. She's done this before. She's here to slay." You get that vibe immediately, and I loved that. I mean, she's like putting. Obviously, I don't know much about the corporation or who she works for or her circumstances, but she takes her job seriously.
Yeah, and we find out through her and her conversation with Rocky, which is so funny because, she puts her blade down and rests against it, and he's like, "Oh, shit," and he grabs like a stick and puts it in the ground and rests against it. It's pretty funny. And he does come across more cute than anything or wholesome,
Yeah, wholesome. Like, I mean, it's like, like you said, you've never seen one. You only hear about them. He's just like, everyone else is scared, but like, this might be my only opportunity to talk to one.
Well, and he's, I think, more interested in the fact that this is the person that's going to avenge, the death of his parents, which we find out that, his parents were killed by Yoma, and that it's just him and his brother now. And that we also find that Claymore, the name Claymore, the organization has no name, but people just call them Claymore. She says, I think it said like multiple times throughout the first volume, that's a name that you've given us, and that even comes into play later on.
It's like Claymore.
And,
I hardly knew her.
Okay, all right. There's gonna be people who like it, but
You like,
but I ain't one of them.
Damn it.
I'm just kidding. I do like it. Just got to be the contrarian sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was a cool interaction. And then, Rocky gets the call to go home. He lives with his uncle now. Dinner's ready. He goes home and he opens the door and his uncle's laying there dead. And he's like, "Brother?" And he turns around and brother, the guy who was at the chief meeting, The guy who was like, why are you,
The
why-
little boy.
Yeah, not the little boy.
I thought it was the little boy.
The little boy is Rocky.
Oh, yeah. The older one.
Yeah, the older brother, who was accusing Rocky of being like a chismoso because he was trying to cover up the fact that he was a Yoma. Is a Yoma, and I remember this scene in the anime being so powerful and being kind of what really hooked me, because in the we've seen body snatcher kind of things before, or when a villain will take the form or body or possess someone's loved one, and it's always that thing of like, they use that person's voice or face to take advantage of the hero or the person that they're trying to fight, whatever. That person's being that person's loved one, whatever. But what I liked about Claymore at the time when I watched it was just like, and you don't get this in the manga because it's obviously a manga, but the modulation, because we had met his brother before and we had seen a flashback of the horrible and horrifying, I mashed those two words up, events that occurred to him and his family. So we know the trauma, and we've met his older brother. So when we see this sort of like played out all over again, but it's modulating between the Yoma's voice and the brother's voice. Like it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then we get the sense later on that the brother, although the Yoma is in possession of the brother's physical form, there is some part of his brother like still in there. And so in the anime, in my memory, like it modulates the speech, and you can hear, I mean, in the dub, at least, this is me watching the dub, by the way, you can hear like when the brother's voice would kind of come in, you can hear him saying like the same like horrifying things that the Yoma is saying, but saying it with like
different cadence.
Yeah, like it's hurting him. It's painful for him to say these things. And again, I could be, romanticizing it in my mind a little bit more. And it is kind of echoed here, even in the manga, where there's a panel of the Yoma and there are tears coming down his eyes. And that's when the Yoma taunts him even more and says like, your brother's still in here and he doesn't like having to watch, me do this or whatever. But did that scene, did you feel the impact of that scene?
I remember feeling it, obviously. Again, it's like, with music involved, with voice acting involved, it is just a higher elevated, like emotional experience, especially for something like this. But I did like watching it and then coming to the manga and seeing it. I feel like it was way more, I guess, focused. Like it took a lot more time in the anime than it did in the manga. But I liked both.
Yeah,
I think it got it
so fast in the manga.
Yeah, I think it got its point across, and like the setup for the character too.
And Claire, who has been following Rocky around because she smelled Yoma on him. Then we learn that Yoma can suppress their energy, their essence, and that they also, at least the Yoma that we're dealing with here, haven't really encountered Claymore. So they are also aware of them, but they think that they're far superior predators. And even the fact that Claymores are half breeds, they still are half human, so they're half of nothing, so they still suck and they're still inferior to the Yoma. But Claire is faster than the Yoma. She's stronger, and we start to see, and it's not explained until like the 3rd chapter. But we start to see like, the veins kind of come all over her face, and her eyes, change color, and just this Yoma sort of power start to kind of overtake her a little bit in this moment. But you were also saying that you felt like, and maybe it's also later on too, but you felt like the action scenes were really well drawn because they were so easy to understand.
Yeah, definitely. Like usually sometimes in like, action manga or a lot of fighting is involved. It's a lot harder to follow, like who's punching and who threw that kick and what happened here. You have to like kind of like really keep your eyes peeled. For me personally, it happens a lot. I don't know if this is like a universal experience, but you've kind of mentioned that too, where it's like, I don't even know who threw that flying kick, or how did that guy get over there, or he got punched. I didn't see that. So this was just like a breath of fresh air, just kind of like that white background, more so you could see like what's actually happening. And again, with the blurriness of like the movement, like it was just super, what's it called? It kept moving.
Had a good flow to it.
I can't find words, but yeah, it was really clear.
Yeah, for me, sometimes, I mean, I really do have to look like 3 panels ahead and then get context clues as to what happened to the kid. Cause I'm like, I can't even see. I'm looking at like a magic eye thing. One of the things, where you have to stare, your kind of eyes get crossed and you can kind of see the image.
Oh yeah.
Some of those panels are like magic eye puzzles to me. Dude, I'm like, what? And then 3 panels later, I see someone like, oh man. And then thank God sometimes they reiterate it like, damn, he hit me so hard in the face. I'm like, okay, that's what that was.
Yeah. Got it.
But you're right. This was very easy to understand.
Yeah.
The movements were clear.
Movements, motion, A+.
A+. Claire's ultimately able to defeat the Yoma, and this is important to Rocky. I mean, it's also like very traumatizing to Rocky because he said that he wanted her to avenge him and his family, and she said she's not doing it for him. She's doing it because this is her job, and he's saying that he's just too weak to do it, and he'll never be able to do it, and so he admires her and he's not afraid of her because he, sees the human side of her. I guess. She is, I think in that moment, maybe a little touched by that. He even asks, maybe not right away, but he even asks her name and she's like, you're not going to even remember me. And once the Yoma is defeated, who is Rocky's brother, she goes to report it to the chief. Like, hey, I did it. This guy's going to come collect the money. And they get Rocky, and Rocky is paralyzed and he is
messed up.
Yeah, he's very, very damaged and stays that way for days, and they can't shake him out of this sort of I guess this funk that he's in. And it's so funny. Like, it is so funny because the chief even like says to him at one point, and I thought this was like hilarious. The chief is just like, Rocky, come on, Rocky, you gotta. Don't even think about what happened today and a couple days ago. Don't even think about it. You can't think about it. And it's like, it was that easy. If it was that easy.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of the first chapter. And we don't even know, did you get the sense that we were going to see more of Rocky? Did you think that this was going to be the end of him?
I thought it was going to be the end.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just like, next town, let's go. I thought it'd be more of like, that type of story where we're seeing a lot of Claire and her journey. And she meets, people along the way and helps them out. And then, it kind of goes from there. But yeah, I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he was kind of in the mix still.
Yeah.
And
they do it really well, too, because he does not come back in the second chapter at all.
Yeah.
So it does kind of lead you to believe like, oh, he's gone. And I love the way that the second chapter starts, too, because the second chapter starts almost like beat for beat, like the first chapter started. It goes into a tent. I mean, literally same thing, except when she's talking to the chief of that village, she immediately just like slices this guy's head off or in half. Yeah, crazy. And he was a Yoma. He was like, if you would have leaned in a little closer to take the money, I would have got you. But I love how it's just like you think you're gonna get the same thing, and then it's like, no,
the psych out after psych out after psych out, and it's not even like just psyching you out to psych you out. It's like, it's just like kind of like, instilling to the reader, like, you can't always believe what is being told to you, like, which I liked.
And this is where we find out more about the organization. This is where a shady figure kind of shows up. Classic shady guy.
Classic shady guy. Looks like the fool from Roger Rabbit.
Oh, he does look like the fool from Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah, exactly. He looks like he could be a flasher too, like a mall flasher or something.
Jesus.
But he's got, the little spectacles, the hat, the trench coat, whatever. Maybe he's just 3 little babies stacked on top of each other.
He might be.
Yeah.
He's bald, so that kind of cashes out.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to read to find out. But he meets Claire and he kind of gives her an update, collects the money, whatever. And we're getting like information, but we're getting it through dialogue, and we're getting it very like, it's not heavy-handed. It's just very sort of said, and we have to kind of like pick up on it, which it's a clear and it's easy to pick up on. But it's not in your face.
No, exactly. I love that too. I mean, he goes, she kind of explains, there's how many people died in the village that you're going to wait a couple days, and then she goes, how many more people will die in the meantime? And then he goes, probably like 2 or 3 more. And then she just saddles up, ready to go. He's like, you're leaving already? And she goes, yeah, I just want to get it over with. And he just kind of goes like, And it's like, obviously she want even 2 or 3 more people to die, so she's ready to
Yeah.
go. And she's like talking about, I've been walking for 3 days. I need to just sit down for a second. I'm like,
And they, he said backup was coming too, and she's like, nah. So you already go in thinking like, oh, she's gonna be outnumbered. And this chapter is really cool, but it also flies by because I think you do get a better sense for Claire in this chapter, but also what it really is to show you how powerful she really is. And she goes to this town and fights 5 Yoma.
it's like a Western standoff.
Yeah, very medieval Western. And she mows through these guys, and she even has like a badass line
She's sick.
where she's like, well, now I know why 5 Yoma don't normally hunt in packs, but I found out why, and it's because weak Yoma need other weak Yoma to lick their wounds or something. I was like, damn, Claire.
Dude, no, that fucking couple of panels when just one is flying away, it's like a crossbreed or whatever,
yeah.
and she just like fucking, and then she just chucks her sword in the air. Like, that was so sick.
Yeah.
She's so goated. Are
She's
you
awesome.
kidding me? What?
She's
that
awesome.
was like, oh my god, so sick. It was so sick. I loved that.
and
That
I
was
do think
amazing.
A lot of this early story, it is cool to watch the anime, a lot of the early story. But then as it gets deeper and deeper, switch to the manga or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love that scene too, because this guy thinks he's getting away, and you find out that there's some that can fly, and
Yeah,
she
she's
gets
like,
roided out
"Fly."
on one arm, and she's like, she chucks it, dude, and it's like, it's so beautifully drawn, and
'Cause you-
I love the whole sequence, this whole fight sequence, her against the 5.
Yeah.
Was really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, that's what the second chapter is, mainly that.
Mhm.
And then, but it's an awesome chapter. And we get into the third chapter, which is, it opens up with her kind of seeing this person covered in all these wraps, this garb that's passed out in like this desert area. And we find out it's Rocky, and he wakes up, and he's in a hotel room with food and lodging
I was
paid
like,
for.
is this guy a Yoma? Everyone,
This guy's a
this
Yoma.
guy's a Yoma.
And he wakes up, asks where he's at. The innkeeper says, Claymore actually dropped you off. And he's like, oh, wow, like, what does she look like? Blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of stuff that's really cool that happens in this scene, too. Like, we find out that, I mean, I think we see how dedicated Rocky is to finding Claire and to joining her,
Mhm.
because he hasn't eaten in days. He has free food, free lodging. And as soon as he finds out that Claire might still be close by, he runs out, and the guy's like, you didn't eat any of this food. And he's like, oh, it's fine. And he like takes a couple of bites of stuff really quick, and he runs out.
It's like, dude, pack it to go. Like, get it to go box.
That's so true. Yeah.
And like, you're on a journey. Like, you don't know what you're gonna eat again.
Good
Be
point.
smart.
Yeah, I get
Like,
it, dude.
literally a minute more.
Yeah, dude, I get it, dude. If I saw Claire, I'd be like that too. I'd be like, I gotta go.
I gotta go. Where's she at? Where's she at?
I gotta go. But he also creepy. But I guess if he thinks it's Claire, then it makes sense. But the innkeeper's like, yeah, no, he sees someone else in town, and they're like, he's like, have you seen a Claymore? And they're like, yeah, I did see a Claymore. They said that they were waiting for you in the woods. Like, okay. And he's like, oh, really? Claire's waiting for me in the woods?
Really?
Yeah, really?
Giddy schoolboy.
Yeah, freaking Rocky. Dumb as Rocky's this guy.
He's
But
nothing.
What?
Nothing. I was gonna make an inappropriate joke.
Okay, it was probably at my own expense.
No, it wasn't. It was at Rocky's.
Oh. So he basically goes into the woods and finds another Claymore. And this is exciting too, because we're like, oh, cool, another Claymore. We get to see more of them. And she kind of comes in on him, and she kind of seduces the boy. She's like, I really, he's like, are you the one that saved me? And she's like, yeah.
You're not Claire.
Well, because she says, she comes in and she's like, us Claymore, we're really kind, at our core, we're kind at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah.
She kind of leans in, like she's about to like do something nasty to this young boy. And then he realizes like, oh, you called yourself a Claymore Claymores don't call themselves Claymores because they're not Claymores. They don't have, that's a name that humans gave them.
And then the Claymore's like, or the Yoma's like, duly noted.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll have to
Ali.
remember that in the future.
Yeah, let me make a note of that on my iPad.
Yeah. Let me pull out my Yoma phone and write that down.
Yoma phone.
Yeah.
Let me just pull out a post-it. Really, just give me one moment.
Give me one moment, Rocky. And the body I inhabited was a scholar before I entered it. Sorry. Yeah, and then, this is where we really get to see how more about Claire's past a little bit and how Claire views Rocky. I thought it was going to be a lot harder for her to come around, and she does play a little tsundere, kind of tough to get for a little bit, but she comes around like actually very quickly, which I like too. She's not dragging him, or he's not following her for chapters and chapters and chapters like, please, can I come in? She's like, no, which, works with a Guts character. And it might have worked with a Claire character too, but I just like how, because that tends to be the case in lots of stories, right? But I like
Donkey Shrek,
there you go, classic. And but I like how she was like, yeah, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So the interaction happens and Claire jumps in, and we find out that this Yoma was only pretending to be a Claymore to lure Rocky in because they saw Claire bring Rocky into town, which made them think that this is someone who they're invested in, which is odd for a Claymore because they don't have emotional ties. However, the Yoma does state that Claymores still do remember their previous life, their human life.
Yeah.
So she, the Yoma tells Claire to drop her sword, which she does. And then the Yoma lunges, pierces like through.
Straight through.
Straight through. And if you know what we're, currently reading, it seemed very familiar. But I'm not going to say what for spoilers. But very familiar. Very familiar. Then Claire uses that like arm that's through her to grab this Yoma and thrust her down the hill to grab her sword and slice and dice her up like a freaking Dyson.
Yeah, that was sick. A Dyson?
I don't know. I slice and
vacuum.
Dice. Oh, Dysons are vacuums. Yeah. What are the blenders?
Those are
I don't know. It phonetically, it sounded right. Slice and dicer like a dicer. I don't know. Whatever. I took a shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's okay though. But yeah, she roughs her up like pretty easily.
I guess my joke was more like a Dyson because it sucked.
It sucked.
Yeah.
And
it was full of dirt.
It was full of dirt and it was crummy.
Okay. It's weird the words that you use to describe vacuum. The words that crummy. We got a freaking snacker over here.
You vacuum up crumbs.
Right. I mean, yeah. I think you vacuum up stuff that you drag in from outside or whatever. Things that people track in, but you think crumbs. It's just, I'm just saying this might be an interesting social experiment where you ask somebody, what do you use a vacuum to vacuum up, and then whatever their answer is probably really tells you. It's like one of those psychology tests. Tells you more about their personality, You're a snacker. It's fine.
Okay, what would you vacuum up?
I just told you. Things that you track in, like dirt and, debris.
Personally, vacuum up.
That's what I mean. Things you track in, like dirt and debris. I vacuum up debris. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what that tells you about me, but... What? Anyway.
Claymore.
Yeah. Anyway, and Claire tells, after she's defeated this Yoma, she tells Rocky, like, I didn't do that for you. I did it because it was a trick to lure the Yoma in. And Rocky's basically like, yeah, I understand. And she's also like, why are you here? And this is where she has a flashback of what happened to her. And we find out more of what happened to her. And she... in her human life, she suffered a very similar fate, which was that her parents and her parents were killed by her brother, I think, or her brother and her parents were killed. Either way, apparently Rocky reminds her of her brother, which the only thing I didn't like was that the the informant guy or the guy who works for the organization, well, like basically gave us that information.
And the Yoma.
Oh, the Yoma gave us that information.
Does he remind you of your maybe little brother?
Yeah, to get
Am I
that
right?
on the nose, yeah. Claymores remember their previous life. A younger brother, perhaps. Perhaps your entire family was slaughtered by
Perhaps
Yoma.
your family was slaughtered by Yoma. No brother. Does he remind you?
And
What?
And then we read a chapter. Claire's whole family was slaughtered by Yoma, and he's just like, oh, he got it exactly right.
You know, he
nailed it.
He hit the nail on the Yoma.
Oh my God, Mehgan, come on. Try a little bit.
Yo.
So it was like, you know, it was a nice moment to get to see more of Claire's backstory, and we see that she does still remember these things. And when Rocky asks, like, you know, hey, I want to follow you, and she remembers what happened to her, and what happened to her was that, and it, you know, the both of their villages suck for this, but I guess I understand the logic. They think that, oh, okay, well, her freaking mom and dad were eaten by Yoma, by her brother who was secretly a Yoma. Like, how do we know that she's not a Yoma?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's got to go. So they pretty much abandoned this kid, kicked this like child out on its own to defend for itself. And so she asks if that happened to Rocky, and in the manga he says like no, but he says it with a way it's like it did.
Yeah.
He's like, no, but it did happen.
No, they didn't kick me out.
And she's like, well, and immediately, and this is what I love, that it didn't drag out for chapters. Immediately, she's like, can you cook? And he's like, yeah, I can cook. And she's like, okay, you're my cook now. And I was like, all right, I like that. Because again, it was straight to the point. That's pretty much the third chapter, and leads us into the fourth chapter, which is like, I think called the Black Card.
Mm-hmm.
Not the American Express Black Card, which
baller alert.
which I don't have, so not baller alert. You know you don't have an American Express Black Card, like when someone hands you one, like just hand someone an American Express Black Card, and just by the expression, the reaction, you know if they have one or not.
Yeah,
Because every time I'm like, oh, you know, you do that dumb joke where you're like, oh my God.
It is heavy.
Yeah. Or I'm just like, what?
Like, why though?
I mean, come on, it's a baller thing to do. I mean,
Have a heavy card?
yeah, because it's like good material, you know? It's not flimsy. It's not, you know, yeah. Fuck yeah. Like, I would love to have a Black Card. I like, when I was younger, not that I cared about like status or anything, I really didn't, but I just really liked, I was like, damn, these are firm ass, heavy ass cards. And not that I cared so much about the money or the status, but it's like, I wanted people to think when I walked in somewhere that I had money. You know what I mean? Just so they would give me better service. I've always looked younger than I am, so I would always get shitty service because people are like, oh, this freaking like 13-year-old's not going to tip. I'm like, I'm 21. So there's these sites that you can go to, and you can basically buy like fake Black Cards and load them up like gift cards. And they're indistinguishable for the most part from Black Cards. And so I almost bought one. That's how my mind works.
Yeah, that's a little look into the dome.
But these Black Cards are not like gift cards.
No, they're
are
sad.
made by American Express.
Yeah, they're sadder ones.
Yeah, way sadder ones.
Mm-hmm.
Claire receives a Black Card as her next mission. And again, I love this, exposition through dialogue, but it's enough said that it's still a mystery. She's basically told, when Claire sees this card, she reacts to it very strongly. It basically
like
says,
the strongest we've ever seen her react to anything.
Yeah, she's like, why me? And the guy says like, well, if this person requested you specifically. And very curious as they're going there. He also mentions like Rocky, and she's like,
you bring a kid along to a Yoma fight.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna do, and I think even he says it too. He's like, your life is your life. Like, do whatever you want. Just do your job, pretty much. Which I'm like, cool, boss.
Yeah.
For now, I do think something sinister is up with them. Well, obviously something sinister is up with them. They're taking kids and they're giving them Yoma blood and flesh. But anyway, we find out that the Black Card. We find out that the men don't survive this Yoma process. That only women survive it. But even though they survive it, they are allowed to use the Yoma's power. And the more of the Yoma's power that they use, it expedites the process of them basically becoming full Yoma. The Yoma will always overtake them, but they're able to keep it at bay as long as they don't rely on its power too much. But the more they do, the quicker they turn. And this is confusing to Rocky because Rocky's like, then just don't use it. Because if you don't use it, you could essentially, live forever. Instead, you're fighting for strangers, which is kind of crazy for him to say because, like, dude, she fought for you too. She saved your ass too.
Yeah.
But I think I get why this conversation is here. And again, she's flashing back to her life and the person's life. We find out that the black card is when another Claymore is overtaken by the Yoma's power. They request for another, which is such a baller, cool ass thing, like to request for another. They get to pick whatever Claymore they want to come kill them while they're still human. And they have these things in their hilts with the symbols, their own personal symbols, that they get to send out to say like, oh yeah, I'm about to turn. So I want to die with dignity. I want Claire or whoever to come axe me.
That's so sick.
That's so cool. Like what a dignified way to go. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. And so we find out a lot of important stuff in this chapter that the Yoma's power, eventually will succumb to it. The more they use it, and it happens to everybody. Yeah. And that inevitable. It's inevitable, and that they all, when this happens, they will all basically be put down and die. Claire is saying that this person that she's on the way to go do this for was her only friend in this facility or place that they all got turned. She was the only person that she could consider a friend that she ever had in her entire life. And that this person meant a lot to her. And so why it was that much more important for her to do this. And Rocky is very confused by all this. Yeah,
Rocky's like, just don't.
He's like, just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah, and it's very sad because you can see this Claymore, this other Claymore, really just like holding it back. Like I'm holding this Yoma back just so I can talk to you, but please, Claire, like I want to die when I'm still human, please. Like you were my only friend. Like kind of reiterates the same things to her, and Claire takes her out.
Rocky's like literally like bawling.
Rocky's like, no,
don't do it, no.
And and we find out again that this is a fate that will befall all Claymore. And that's pretty much
where it ends. It shows like the tombstone or, where she leaves the sword of her fellow Claymore companion.
Yeah, but we find out again just a lot of the inner workings of this world, the Claymore, the systems, like how the world views them. Like this first volume is really nice at laying the groundwork. Unfortunately for like a long form discussion, which again, sometimes is hard to have depending on volume one to volume one.
Length and everything.
Yeah. But, I think that, unfortunately, I guess for a long form discussion, a lot really for the major plot doesn't happen in the first volume. It is all kind of set up. We don't even meet the central or the main antagonist in the first volume. We don't even get any sense for who this antagonist might be. Yeah,
we kind of like just right now it is just the Yoma,
But as someone who has watched the anime, I will say that there is someone who is introduced, and it is they are a very formidable, and I remember in my memory in the anime, and I know the anime is a lot different than the manga, so please don't come at me, even though I already know you already did. A very formidable opponent and a villain that I actually enjoyed watching.
Is it Yo Mama?
Oh my God. I already said it. And you stole my joke.
You're such a liar.
But what did you think overall, this first volume?
Yeah, like I said, Claymore, give me more. I really, really, really enjoyed it. This was one of, honestly, my favorite volume 1 reads.
Whoa.
Because it...
For real?
Bomb drop. Just because it was so simple and not overcomplicated, and it, made the main character shine, and it gave us little clues here and there, and I wouldn't even call it like too simple because it really was entertaining and it flew by, and I think that's what a volume 1 should bring out. That's what it should do.
Yeah. For me, I do want to say that I do recommend this series. I think it holds up. I think the art's great when it is and not great when it's not. But I think it's more great than not great. I think it's a really well-paced story, at least in this first volume. And it would be harder for me to recommend this had I, if I was more unaware of the events that do follow. Again, in my memory of what I remember of the anime, it is a series that does continue to get better and better and better. And I think if you really do enjoy the first volume and the pacing of it, and I've heard that the manga suffers from pacing issues, but what manga doesn't? I mean, but I really do think that if you end up enjoying this first volume, that you will enjoy the series as a whole. I think it's a really interesting story, and I do think it's a story that if it was reanimated and told faithfully, based on the source material of the manga, especially in today's manga, I don't know, manga, all the manga that are all the anime. That the manga anime space, all the anime that's coming out now feels like, this would really fit really well into what seems to be kind of popular and working right now. I think if this had a reanimation, I think it would be extremely popular. At the time, I just don't really know why it didn't seem to click with enough people. This series is criminally underrated and talked about, and there's not a lot of even content online about it.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of like, oh, okay. I was not surprised, but it was why aren't more people talking about this?
Yeah, and I will say that don't go into this series looking for something to fill a hole that Berserk has left in your heart, or even Demon Slayer. We use those things to kind of compare. A lot of people compare these series, and I do think there are similarities, and I do think if you like Berserk, there's a good chance you'll like Claymore too, but it is very much its own story, and it is different, and it is a different pace, a story told at a different pace. But I really do think that this series doesn't get enough shine. I think it's really, really good. I do think in a way, I don't know if I want to say it was ahead of its time, but it does feel like if it was released now, that there would be a lot of hype around it. I really do think that this is a series that deserves a reanimation, and if you haven't read it, deserves a read. And again, you'll get a really good sense of how fast this manga moves based on the first volume. And if you don't like the first volume, if it's too slow for you, if it's too generic for you, then that's fine. But it does get really good, and there is I do like the villain that is introduced and some of the other themes that are introduced. I think Claymore's a really solid series. And if you haven't read it, I recommend reading it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But that's going to do it for our Claymore Volume 1 review and discussion, but we're not done yet. We have to get to the next segment on our show. There's always more. The other segment on our show called the Water's Circle, which is the segment on our show where our beautiful AI that you heard read the synopsis earlier, she goes through some of the comments you've left on previous videos. She picks a couple and she reads them aloud to us. And so if you would like one of your comments read in a future Water Circle, all you got to do is leave a comment on this video or any of our other videos. But with all that said, Volume 1, Chan, will you hit us with the first comment, please?
This one comes from Carlo Longoria. I feel like you're comparing Asta to the wrong Naruto character. Asta is more like Rock Lee, someone who was born lacking the natural talents others, including Naruto, had from birth. So he trains his body every day to further his goals. Does that make Yuno Neji? Somewhat. Yuno is supposed to be more that character who is too cool for school.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting. Another Black Clover comment. This comes from our Black Clover episode, which I, really would like to read more of Black Clover. But the only reason I think Asta gets compared to Naruto more, I do think it is a far more apt comparison to call him more of a Rock Lee, 100%. And that's what I think makes this a great comment. Absolutely, yes. However, I think he gets compared to Naruto a lot because he's the protagonist, right? Obviously. But also because of just Naruto's attitude. Rock Lee is, I think, more likable. I think everybody loves Rock Lee. Everybody loves Rock Lee. And especially later on, he just gets so much more endearing and funny, and he's a character that you can't you can't not love. And I think that they get compared, especially if you're watching the Naruto dub, which please, for the love of God, don't do that to yourself. Or the Black Clover dub. I think that they are characters who are just very loud and proclaim, like a lot of shonen protagonists proclaim that I want to be the Hokage, or I want to be the Wizard King. And they kind of like, it's their voice, it's their the volume at which they speak that I think makes them be constantly compared. But I would say, yes, 100% Rock Lee is a more accurate description in comparison. And especially Neji too, which you didn't get to meet Rock Lee or Neji yet.
Yeah, I've only met Naruto.
You got a lot more characters, and Naruto's great. You got a lot more characters that you need to meet, and that's why this comment I did kind of cut a little of. I kind of like hacked Volume 1 Chan's mainframe, and I did kind of cut out the beginning of this comment because it does kind of give some stuff away for someone who hasn't. These things haven't been revealed. Yeah,
got it.
But with all that said, Volume 1 Chan, can you hit us with the next comment, please?
This one comes from George Calimeris. Just an idea for a Patreon-exclusive podcast. Instead of reacting to every episode of a popular series like Spy Family or Attack on Titan, you can react to the first episode of other series. Kind of like Volume 1s, but call them Episode 1. You can also react to another episode of a series that you like.
Yes.
Yeah, Megan, I talked a lot during the first comment, so you take this one.
Yeah, we had, obviously we've done like episode reactions and stuff, and we've kind of reached out to everyone asking if they'd want to see maybe a spy or something else. We definitely had been talking about it, and I do generally every season pick at, probably 6 or 7 shows that look good to me, sound good to me, and then I start, watching them. And as the season goes on, sometimes I drop them, other ones I watch all the way through, and I do that pretty much every new season, and this new season has a lot of bangers, and we had talked about actually filming a video like that, because we have watched a good amount of the ones that had come out this season, but there are some that we still haven't. So if you are interested in something like that, that would be fun. For a main episode or a Patreon episode, because we're always looking for suggestions for Patreon episodes too. Obviously we love just talking about anime and manga in general.
And we've done kind of that too on a Patreon episode. We haven't like reacted to an episode specifically, but we did kind of react to the trailers for upcoming anime and stuff. But I do think that would be a good idea. Again, because I don't know. I think sometimes. There are times that it makes sense to do it on the main channel, and there are other times where it's like it doesn't really make sense, but I would still like to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when you feel like you can be like even more comfortable and laid back, like the stakes aren't as high, because this isn't getting chopped. I mean, that's probably the thing too. It doesn't probably have to be chopped up as much.
Or if we could do like a type of we want to get better at. We do have a live every Thursday at 9 p.m. on Kumu, but we do want to plan out some lives for the future. Something fun like that would be fun to do. Maybe not for this season, but for next season when more episode 1s come out. Or we could just do like banger ass anime, like Josh still hasn't seen Neon,
that would be sick.
Yeah, that like heavy hitter first episode anime.
That's a great video idea. Someone write that down. Yeah,
you're the one who has the pen, dude.
Someone write that down. I do think that would be a great idea. Because I think even this comment said it too. Like, not just Spy and Kaguya, which came out this season, which I've loved both episodes of. But just older series too. Like that'd be super sick. Again, like I like the idea of not feeling like it has to go on the main channel. Sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. So a Patreon exclusive episode would be fire. And yeah, we're trying to make those more interactive too. So I talked about it last week, but I'm going to do it probably after we record, make a post on our Patreon and just ask some people what their favorite maybe anime movies are. And we'll look at things that they have watched. And if we've seen them, give our thoughts on it. Or maybe we'll watch one if we haven't seen it. Or just make it more interactive and stuff too. And if you don't know anything about the Volume 1 exclusive bonus Patreon podcast, Volume 1 Extra, it's a fun time. It's more laid back. It's more loose. It's a full episode. It's a full video episode. It's usually the same length, about an hour, hour and a half, video or audio. And it's not as structured, but we do have structure to it. We talk about everything and anything, movies. We talk about TV shows. We talk about music. We talk about behind the scenes volume 1 stuff. We did like an episode where we talked about like, some behind the scenes cosplay, like what goes into making some of the cosplay, some of the like, down to the wire things that we're having to do. And it's just fun and laid back. And if you don't know anything about it, then maybe you should check it out. Or maybe we'll put out an episode. We haven't done that in a long time too.
Yeah.
We can maybe like put out another one just to kind of show people like this is what's behind that wall.
And speaking of Patreon,
now
we have to thank our beautiful, wonderful, spectacular Clay Gimme More and More Patreon members.
Yes, we do, Megan. Shout out to all of you beautiful Patreon members.
Beautiful.
Thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts.
You're beautiful.
You're all beautiful. And we love all of you guys. I mean, it's because your support that we're able to do what we're able to do. And, it's just, again, in these last couple of months, it's just felt so special. And we've just felt so fortunate and grateful and blown away. And the amount of support that we've seen, like, since, from the jump, if you've been a part of our Patreon or even, been at the beginning of our YouTube membership program, like, we appreciate that too. And we're blown away back then. For sure, but even more so, I think now, like getting to this point, it is absolutely incredible, and I hope that you guys really do see and feel that all the money that you give, it does go back into the show in one way, shape, or form, and it's not always equipment necessarily, but it might be cosplay, or it might be, there are so many things it can go towards, and it also goes towards like helping give us more time to not have to make that money elsewhere, so that we can take that time to like put more into the actual episodes in terms of like reading and preparation and like filming and all that stuff. I mean, if you've noticed the uptick in the amount of content we've been releasing, which is like the done Kais, the done pieces, the volume 1s, the streams, like all these things that we've been doing, we're able to do that now because we're starting to have more time to do those things, and we have more time because of your support. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts. We love each and every single one of you. And if you'd like to become a Patreon member and show your support, then you can do that by becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon member by going to patreon.com/volume1pod or clicking join on this video to become a YouTube member. Early access to all our videos and access to that exclusive bonus Patreon podcast, Volume 1 Extra, that we were just talking about. But if, you're not in a place right now where you can give financially, do not worry about that either. There are plenty of other ways you can show your support, and Megan will tell you those things now.
Yeah, you don't have to give us yo money. You can give us things for free. You can comment anything on any of our episodes. Algorithm gang represent V1, represent V1 gang, algorithm gang. This is a free thing that you guys can do. Like, subscribe. It really helps us out. It promotes our episodes far and wide across the globe to everyone and all who love anime and manga as much as we do. And it is completely free 99. It does help us out so much. And I always say it sounds kind of like corny. Everyone says this, but it really does help our channel grow and, expand and thrive and it gives us little pieces of Yoma flesh and blood so we can grow stronger.
And yeah, because our long form videos, like I've said before, YouTube doesn't always favor long form videos, so it really does help us out a lot. So even sharing the videos, if you're listening, rating on whatever app you listen to, or even if you don't, here's a secret. Even if you don't listen on the apps, but you have an app, just go find the podcast in the app and leave a review or something. All that stuff really helps. And that's going really above and beyond, and that's super helpful. And you can do that for free.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for another episode of Volume 1. The only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that's always the same and never changes, which today I have one. You might not like it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm interested to hear if you have one.
I don't have one yet.
Okay. Claymore, please.
That's good.
Does it pass the test?
No, yeah. It was good. Okay. I mean, I said in the beginning, yeah.
Oh. So it's basically yours.
It's basically mine, but like it's really good. That's why I like it.
Oh, you stole my Yo Mama joke. So
well, it's funny if we play the tape back. If you really listen to it,
Mm.
I don't know if your hearing's going.
My headphones are broken. I have you muted in my headphones, but they're broken.
So you can just read lips.
yeah. If we play the tape back, we'll find the truth. Anyway, I do think that you know what's so funny? Now I do remember you saying Claymore. Well, you did say Claymore, but I added the please, which isn't really enough
I like
to make
the
it.
please. No, it works. It works. I don't have anything.
It's
I don't
not
have
enough-
anything.
it's not
It's
enough to
mine,
make
but I
it
don't
mine.
have anything.
Okay, well, it's not enough to make it mine, but it's just, I'm building off of an already strong foundation. How about that? Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time,
Claymore, please.
Flash sale.